Hi there, friends. Welcome back. This is Claudia again with White Sugar Designs, and today I am working on my quote journal doing some mixed media. That is my love right now. I feel like I can't do a page without uh, putting some paint and some stenciling on it and some decoupage. I don't know, I used to do it a lot before in canvases, and I'm so happy that I am starting to do this on my journal pages. I hope you like it and you can see and fall in love with it just as much as I have. And don't be afraid to start putting paints and gesso onto your pages, which is what I'm doing here right now. Gesso is just a protective coating on your paper. It does prevent it from wrinkling and warping when you add paints and spray inks and things like that. So make sure you dry every layer. Whenever you're working on mixed media, you have to dry every layer. So next, I'm jumping in here with probably now my favorite stencil. It's by Plaid. Not sure what, this is almost like a stitching, but like more of a knitting pattern, I think. That's what at least it reminds me of. It kind of reminds me of a sweater when you see it like that, but once we add ink, it does take on a different look. So I'm using some, I always say gel medium, but it's actually modeling paste, and it's just of a thick type of, I don't know, paste that dries stiff, and so therefore you can add color to it. You can actually add color to it before, like you can mix it first and then use it with your stencils. But in this case, I wanted to have it white because my plan was to add color to it on top. But when you add the color afterwards, some sections remain white or opaque, and that's just still kind of part of adding that texture and that color texture, I guess, to your pages. And as you can see, my pages are not warped, even though I have added several liquidy kind of, wet materials on it. And that's the beauty about gesso and what it does to protect your pages. So I'm putting this little, whenever you buy supplies, they come in these plastic little bags. So I keep a few of them handy and I cut them in half so I can put them behind the pages, as you saw me doing that here. And that's to protect the page underneath. The only thing that I have to warn you is that if you get paint or anything on that plastic and you slide it out, sometimes it still might get underneath. So just be careful, especially if you move them around, because some of the material that you were using might stay on that plastic. So if you keep moving them within your journals, that material can transfer to your other pages. So always be aware of that. So I was using some Heidi Shine spray inks. I love her spray inks because they really don't warp the pages. Even if you didn't add gesso, I don't know why, but her spray inks, they're the best when it comes to spraying on your paper. So, but I wanted the colors to be intense, and sometimes you want a certain color palette, which is what I wanted here. I wanted to use this beautiful turquoise and this greenish yellowish tones, and so I was combining some watercolors, and these are by Prima. They're probably my favorite right now just because of the color palette. These are the tropicals. They have several, each palette comes in a different color set. So these are tropicals. You can find pastels, you can find more full colors and things like that. So the reason why I'm adding this other color is also for contrast, but also because I wanted to use this specific paper, and the paper had a little bit of pink in it. And that's another reason why I'm going to be using some black, like you will see me doing here in a little bit. It's because, again, if you choose your favorite paper that you're going to be using on your project, try to use the colors that you see there, and that way things will match and will stay cohesive. So I was going to use this kind of rounded brush, but I remember that this other little fan, that's what I'm going to call it, looks like a little fan brush. It just puts that splatter effect so much nicer. And you can see me there, and you see this in a lot of mixed media artists, that this is the technique that they use to do that splatter effect. And like I said, make sure that you dry each of your layers as you're adding more colors and things like that. So right now I wanted to that X pattern, I don't know, that pattern on the stencil, I wanted to, it's raised, right? Because of the modeling paste, it's kind of raised up. So I wanted to use ink to kind of make it stand out. And so I rubbed my ink pad very lightly over it, and you can see how much some of those X's were able to stand out. So now I'm going with another layer here of some stamping, and these stamps are by Gossamer's Blue, which sad to say the company is no longer in business, but I love their stamps. I was able to grab a mystery box when they were closing, and it came with tons of supplies. And these are some of my favorite stamps from them. That little circle one, it's like a little mini wreath. And then this it's just a kind of a poem or a little phrase. So I stamped that out randomly throughout the page. And then for the quote itself, I'm not going to be writing it on the paper. I've decided to use canvas. And this is a piece of canvas that I bought at Joann's. I think I bought like a quarter of a yard, and I just cut it, and it's awesome because it's a canvas material. It accepts pretty much anything that you add to it. So I added some inks and Liquitex paint, and it was pretty bright. I wanted it a little bit toned down, so I ran it through the faucet and got it, I just took some of the paint off, and then of course I dried it. I love the fact that it's fraying a little bit. It just, again, it's all about textures and how yummy it looks. It makes you want to touch it. So now I am playing around with these beautiful papers, and the papers themselves was the inspiration for the colors that I use. These papers are by Webster's Pages. Believe it or not, I not only have their planners, I also have their beautiful papers. If you don't know, if this is just your first time here on my channel, I am part of the design team for Webster's Pages. And so I get to play with some of their beautiful supplies. The journal itself is by Webster's Pages. The cover that I use is also by Webster's Pages, and now the paper that I'm using here in this layout is by Webster's Pages. And there you can see I have two of these beautiful, I think they're larger than 8 by 8. I can't remember the size, but they're larger than a 6 by 6 for sure. And so I'm going through the papers because I didn't like how that yellow, it just felt like it got lost on the background. So I'm kind of playing around with the rest of the papers here to see which one might coordinate a little bit better. And so I found this very pretty, it's kind of like a gingham or a plaid, but it's a wood tone, and it's a lot more quiet. The yellow one was pretty loud, and this, it's a little bit more quiet, and so I kind of like that. And you can see how nice it looks there. So again, kind of following that rough, that grungy look, distress, I went ahead and just kind of tear the paper instead of using my paper cutter. And then I was just roughing the edges with that little tool, the little tool there. Oh my God, the little tool there. And that one was by Making Memories. So I don't even know if who makes those anymore. I wanted to use and add some of that same colors that were on the background. And so even though this is just regular cardstock, it was okay. It took, and I got frustrated because I couldn't get the splatter other than these big, huge blobs of paint. So then I go back and then I use the other little brush, as you can see there. But what was I saying? I hate it when I do that. Um, well, I'm just distressing it. I wanted to give it that same look, and so it's the same pink or fuchsia color, just to kind of keep, again, everything is almost like it's a rhythm, right? It's your rhythm is the same, it's the same colors, it's the same technique. You want to rough up all the edges, so you kind of keep everything consistent, the same rhythm when it comes to your layout design. So I do the same for all the paper, the papers that I'm using. And I'm gonna have to tell you that what you when we get to the end of the layout and then you get to see the close-ups, there will be a lot of changes, because as I completed the layout and then I looked at it as I was taking the close-up photos, some things were just, my eyes were just not happy. And it's all about that. And you know what? One thing that I noticed, and this is the one tip that I can give you when it comes to photography. I do this whenever I post photos on Instagram. So I will go ahead and stage my photos. But when I see through the lens of the camera or through the screen of my phone, it just takes on a different look. And so that's kind of my test. What I do is, if I'm taking a photo, I look with my eyes obviously, but then I look through the lens of the camera or the screen of my phone, and then I make the adjustments. And so that's why I ended up making some changes to the layout, because when I was looking through my phone, there was something missing. So I apologize, because you will see this, a lot of things, not a lot, but a few things change at the end. So I went ahead and grabbed my laptop and pulled out one of my favorite quotes, or at least the quotes for this month. For the month of May, the theme is satisfied. So all my quotes for the month will be under that same theme. If you don't know, I do have a theme every month. My planner starts with that theme. So I kind of reflect on whatever that word is. And this month is satisfied, and it is to remind me that I need to be satisfied with what I have, with the results of things. So in this case, I need to be satisfied. Apparently, I wasn't. I need to be satisfied with the result of my layout, but I still went ahead and made changes. So the quote says, if you look for perfection, you will never be satisfied. Which, obviously that's what I was looking for when I was working on this layout. Maybe not perfection, but something that I truly liked. And I did make changes, but then I was satisfied once I did that. So I cut this little wreath with my Cricut. I always say Cricut. My Cricut, and added it to the page. And I had that little die cut. It looks like fabric, but it's not. But you know what? I don't even know. I want to say that's by Stampin' Up. A friend gave it to me, and I've been hoarding it, and I finally decided that it was time to use it. So I pulled it out, and you'll see me add it here in a minute. But first, like I said, I added this little wreath here. I don't know, it kind of follows again the rhythm of the circles from the stamps, and that's the whole reason why I chose another wreath that is very similar to the stamp. I ended up having to buy it. It was 99 cents Cricut file, but it's so lovely, and I know I'm gonna get to use it a lot. And obviously you can resize it. So I made it kind of large to make it kind of a part of the focal point on the layout. So I'm going to finally attach the tag really, really secure there. And like I said, you will see me make some changes towards the end of how I'm gonna tell you. I ended up taking that little piece of paper to the left, the torn edge, not the black one, but the wood looking one. I took it off because it just looked like it's just was laying out there in space all by itself, and I did not like it, so I took it off. And then the other change that you will see is that I added more color to the little wreath, the one that I cut with the Cricut. I added more intense, almost like an orange color to it to make it pop and make it again part of the focal point. So those will be the two changes that you will see at the end. So I want to take a chance or a minute here to say thank you so much for watching. I always start saying my goodbyes early because I always seem to be talking and run out of time. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate all your support and your wonderful comments. Please let me know if you have any questions. I want you to feel comfortable and not be afraid of mixed media. It is all about, experimenting and being satisfied with whatever the result is. And obviously, the most important is to have fun. So I went ahead and I wanted to add this little butterfly, and I'm sorry I'm off camera there, but you can see where I added it. It's again cutty corner to the other wreath and that little flower bouquet, just to kind of keep these in alignment, I should say. And then I add a little bit of a shadow effect, that's what I'm gonna call it, to the wreath, because you'll be able to see the difference when you add a little bit of color. And I know there's better ways to do this. There is a pencil out there that you can add, and then you rub it off with your fingers, and it does wonders when it comes to adding a shadow to one of your embellishments. Um, well, that's like I said, that's gonna be it. Look for the close-ups, make note of the changes. Go ahead and scrap lift this layout if you like. If you like to know what my next theme or any of the themes that I have for this year, there is a list on my blog, and I promise I will try to update my blog. That's the one thing I don't seem to be able to get to, but there's also a Facebook group, and it's called creative journals, and that's where you'll see more pictures of all most of my journals. But of course, Instagram is the place to see most of my work. So thank you so much, you guys. Until next time, I hope that you go ahead and get your crafty fingers all covered in paint and inks and have fun with it, because that is what this is all about. So stay tuned for close-ups and a supply list as well. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye.